After a long, grueling, interesting, but strange season, the moment we waited all season for is finally here, the NBA playoffs. We got contenders like the Bucks, the Celtics, the Suns, and the Nuggets, but we also got some dark horse teams like the Lakers, the Warriors, the Clippers, the Kings, and let's see if one of them can come out of the West, or hell, maybe even some dark horse teams in the East like the Cavs, the Sixers, the Heat, or even the Knicks. We got a lot of teams with a chance to contend this year, but in this video, I'm going to be going over the top 5 biggest playoff upsets in the NBA since 2000. Cue the intro. Number 5, we got the Orlando Magic versus the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2009. Looking back at it now, the 2009 NBA season was really an underrated one. LeBron won his first MVP and led his Cavs to 66 wins in the East. The Big Four Boston Celtics were looking to repeat and finish the season with 62 wins. And Kobe was looking for his first ring without Shaq since their three-peat from 2000 to 2002. And Kobe led his Lakers to 65 wins and first in the Western Conference. But going back to this Cavs-Magic matchup, the Magic had a very underrated team surrounding Dwight Howard, with players such as Hedo Turkoglu, Rashard Lewis, and Jameer Nelson, who didn't play in the Cavs series, but this team did put up 59 wins, which was good for third in the East. The Cavs made easy work of the Pistons and the Hawks in the first 2 rounds, finishing them both off in 4-game sweeps, while the Magic beat Philly in the first round and the defending champ Boston Celtics in 7 games in the second round. Mind you, Kevin Garnett was out of that series with an injury, but the Magic were also missing their all-star point guard Jameer Nelson. When the Cavs faced off against the Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals, most of us thought Cleveland was going to coast through and we would finally get the matchup of LeBron and Kobe in the NBA Finals. But as we all know, this never happened. And the Orlando Magic would steal Game 1 in Cleveland with a game-winning three-pointer from Rashard Lewis. The Cavs were a hair away from going down 2-0, but LeBron hit an iconic game-winner in Game 2 to even the series at 1. The Magic won a crazy back-and-forth Game 4 where LeBron scored 44 points and still lost, and the Cavs were down 3-1 at that point. Dwight Howard and the Magic would finish off the Cavs in 6 and would reach their first NBA Finals since 1995 when Shaquille O'Neal was there. Looking back at this Cavs roster, and after finishing the season with 66 wins and an all-star point guard in Mo Williams, this defeat to the Cavs is heartbreaking, as this was their best chance at winning the title until LeBron left to Miami in 2010. Number 4, we got the Dallas Mavericks versus the Phoenix Suns in 2022. This series was one for the ages. The Phoenix Suns of Chris Paul and Devin Booker, who reached the NBA Finals in 2021, were only 2 wins away from winning their first title in franchise history, but they lost a close 6-game series to the Milwaukee Bucks. Everyone knew the Suns would be back competing in 2022, and after their 64-win season that season, fans were waiting to see them back in the finals again. The Suns made easy work of the New Orleans Pelicans in 6 games to close out the first round and faced Luka and the Mavs in the second round. This was a very back-and-forth series, as both teams would win each of their first 3 home games in this series, and this series had a lot of trash talk in it, especially between Luka and D-Book. Even though the series was going 7 games, everyone, including the Suns, thought they had this series won, but Game 7 was one of the biggest blowouts in an elimination game of all time. The Suns, who reached the finals the year prior, had 64 wins and looked like title favorites all season long. They were down 30 points at halftime on their own home floor in Game 7. Not only that, but they only scored 27 first half points, which was 3 fewer than Luka had at halftime. Not only was it a massive upset to lose to the 4th-seeded Dallas Mavericks, who weren't even supposed to win that series, but they lost by 33 points on their home floor in an elimination game. The Suns looked broken during that Game 7, and they would have a very long offseason as well. But now with Kevin Durant on their team, in which they acquired via trade this season, let's see what noise the Suns can make this playoffs, as they currently got the 3rd highest odds to win in all this season. Number 3, we got the Memphis Grizzlies versus the San Antonio Spurs in 2011. I'm sure most of you guys remember the grit and grind Memphis Grizzlies team with Mike Conley, Tony Allen, Marc Gasol, and Zach Randolph, because this series was when the Grizzlies put themselves on the map. The San Antonio Spurs were doing what they always did in the Tim Duncan era, winning over 50 games and ready to make another playoff push. And in the 2011 season, the Spurs finished with the best record in the West with 61 wins and were looking to add another championship to their dynasty. They would face the 46-win, 8-seeded Memphis Grizzlies in the first round, and this series would be one for the ages. The Grizzlies would open up the series by winning the first game in San Antonio, and most of us thought it was just one game where Memphis got the better of the Spurs, but this game would be a big indicator of how the series would play out. The Spurs would even the series 1 apiece in Game 2, but the Grizzlies would take a commanding 3-1 series lead after Game 4, and it was not looking good for the Spurs. The Grizzlies almost finished off the series in 5 in Texas, but Gary Neal hit an insane buzzer beater 3-pointer to send the game to OT, where the Spurs would pull out the win. Going back to Memphis for Game 6, the Grizzlies knew they had to win this game as they didn't want to head back to San Antonio for a Game 7. The Grizzlies would pull off the upset and beat the Spurs 99-91 behind Zach Randolph's 31 points and 11 rebounds. The Grizzlies did not play like an 8th seed though, as they pretty much had control over the entire series over the first seeded Spurs. This grit and grind Grizzlies team was truly special, as they solely focused on their elite defense to win games, and they caused a ton of trouble to Western Conference teams over the years. Number 2, we got the Detroit Pistons versus the Los Angeles Lakers in 2004. The LA Lakers in the early 2000s were right in the middle of their dynasty, as they won 3 championships in a row from 2000 to 2002, and after adding a past their prime Gary Payton and Karl Malone on top of Kobe and Shaq, the Lakers made one more push for the title. The Lakers finished second in the West with a 56-26 record and knocked off the other 2 best teams in the West, the T-Wolves and the Spurs, on their route to their 4th finals appearance in 5 years. There, they would match up against the Detroit Pistons, who finished the season with a 54-28 record, which wasn't bad at all, but the Lakers were huge favorites to win this series as they still had Kobe and Shaq, who just three-peated a couple of years ago. The Pistons had a core of Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace, Richard Hamilton, Rasheed Wallace, and Tayshaun Prince. The Pistons were an elite defensive team, and they showed it in this series, stealing Game 1 in LA, only giving up 75 points. The Lakers were just a few seconds away from going down 2-0 on their home floor, but Kobe Bryant hit an impossible 3-pointer to tie the game in the 4th to send the game to OT, where the Lakers would pull off the win to even the series at 1 apiece. It was looking like we had a series, but the Pistons thought otherwise. The Pistons' beautiful teamwork and elite defense was too much for the Lakers to handle, as the underdog Detroit Pistons closed out the Lakers in 5 games. All 5 starters I mentioned before on the Pistons all averaged over 10 points per game that series, even Ben Wallace. Kobe and Shaq each played pretty well, as Shaq averaged 26 and 11 that series, and Kobe averaged 22 points, but he did shoot 38% from the field that series. But besides them two, nobody on the Lakers even averaged over 6 points per game, as Derek Fisher was their 3rd leading scorer, putting up 6 points per game that series. No matter how good your 2 star players are, the Lakers' lack of support that series really hurt them, especially on the offensive end. But for the Pistons, this was a crazy upset, and not only did this happen in the NBA Finals, but this defeat for the Lakers broke up their core of Kobe and Shaq, and the Lakers dealt Shaquille O'Neal to the Miami Heat. The Pistons also showed in this series that you don't need a superstar or multiple to win a championship, as they did it with defense and beautiful teamwork. Now our number 1 upset, we got the Golden State Warriors versus the Dallas Mavericks in 2007. This series was an upset for the ages. The Dallas Mavericks had a core of Dirk Nowitzki, Josh Howard, and Jason Terry, and they had just lost to the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals the year prior. After being up 2-0 that series and losing the next 4 games, the Mavs came back the following season with a vengeance, finishing with a 67-15 record, which is the best record in the league by a mile. The Mavs had championship aspirations written all over their team, as they just made the NBA Finals the year prior and had a franchise record, 67 wins. They would finish 1st in the West and play the 8th-seeded Golden State Warriors in the 1st round. And mind you, the Warriors beat the Mavs 3 times during the regular season, but the Mavs were still heavy favorites, as the playoffs tend to be a whole new ballgame. But the Warriors with Baron Davis, Monte Ellis, Steven Jackson, and Jason Richardson were no joke, as they would steal the first game in Dallas 97-85 and start this off with a bang. This series was tied 1 apiece going to Golden State, and the atmosphere there was something else. The We Believe Warriors truly did believe they were the team, as they won the next 2 games at home to take a commanding 3-1 series lead over the 67-win Dallas Mavericks. The Warriors would finish off the Mavs in Oracle in Game 6, 111-86, to pull off what is arguably the greatest upset in NBA playoff history. The Warriors really had the Mavs number, as they locked down the MVP Dirk, only allowing him to average 19 points on 38% from the field. This loss was heartbreaking for the Mavs as well, as they had just made the finals a year prior and finished with 67 wins, a franchise record and league high, all to lose in the 1st round to the 8th-seeded Warriors. Thankfully, the Mavs main core with Dirk and Jason Terry won a championship 4 years later in 2011, and that helped their franchise a lot to put this miserable upset behind them. That We Believe Warriors team was truly special, as they did not play like an 8th seed in the playoffs and pulled off one of the greatest playoff upsets in all of sports. Thank you guys so much if you made it to the end of this video. If you like this video and want to see more content just like this one, drop a like and subscribe, and I will keep you guys in the loop. Thank you guys, and I will see you in the next video.